Iran's secret war with Israel turns deadlier. Tehran has hanged another alleged Mossad master spy in its 10th execution since June's blistering Israel-US strikes. As UN sanctions bite and nuclear talks collapse, Iran's clerical rulers face a volatile mix of economic freefall, public anger, and the looming threat of fresh Israeli attacks. A regime on edge, a shadow war unchecked. The stakes for the Middle East have never been higher. Iran has reportedly hanged a man suspected of being one of the most important spies for Israel in Iran. According to Iran's Mizan news agency, the incident marked the 10th such execution by the Iranian administration following the 12-day war in June with Israel and the United States. On September 29th, Mizan, the judiciary's news outlet, reported that Bahman Choobiasl was executed over his meeting with officials from the Israeli spy agency, Mossad. According to Mizan, Choobiasl had worked on sensitive telecommunications projects. Citing sources, the report said,
"The main goal of Mossad in attracting the defendant's cooperation was to obtain the database of governmental institutions and create a breach in Iranian data centers, along with which it also pursued other secondary goals, including investigating the route of importing electronic equipment."
According to the report, Iran's Supreme Court rejected the defendant's appeal and confirmed the death sentence on charges of corruption on earth. Choobiasl is the second person to be executed this month after Babak Shabazi was hanged, also held guilty of spying for Israel. However, activists disputed the claim and said Shabazi was tortured into a false confession after he had written a letter to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky offering his services for the war. Israel's offensive in June involved 12 days of air attacks, including several that targeted Iran's top generals and nuclear scientists, as well as civilians in residential areas, for which Iran retaliated with barrages of missiles and drones. The US also carried out extensive strikes, on Israel's behalf, on Iranian nuclear sites during the conflict. In response to the June war and protests in recent years over the state of the economy, women's rights and some calls for regime change, Iran has sentenced more people to death. Entangled in a decades-long shadow war with Israel and a full-blown conflict this June, Iran has put to death many individuals it accuses of having Mossad collaborators within Iran and facilitating its operations in the country. Iran is known to have executed 10 people for espionage since the June conflict, making it the deadliest year for espionage-related executions in recent decades. Those executed included nuclear scientist Rozbeh Vadi and telecommunications expert Bahman Choobiasl, who has been identified as one of the most significant spies for Israel in Iran. Arrests of alleged Mossad operatives continued, with Iranian authorities pledging no leniency and publicizing some details, but conducting trials in secrecy. According to the Oslo-based group Iran Human Rights and the Washington, DC-based Abdurrahman Boruman Center for Human Rights in Iran, the number of people executed in 2025 was more than 1,000, but notes that the number could be higher as Tehran does not report each execution. Activists have raised concerns that confessions and convictions are often obtained under torture or duress, with trials lacking transparency. According to a Reuters report, Iran's clerical rulers face one of their gravest crises since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, caught between growing discontent at home and a stalled nuclear deal that together have left the country more isolated and divided. This blunt assessment reflects what 4 unnamed Iranian officials and 2 insiders told Reuters. Without a breakthrough with Western powers, Iran's economic isolation will intensify, fueling public fury and threatening the survival of the Islamic Republic.
Yet accepting the West's demands risks fracturing the ruling elite and sidelining the Islamic Republic's revolutionary beliefs in not succumbing to Western pressure that defined Tehran's unbowed stance. The clerical establishment is trapped between a rock and a hard place. The existence of the Islamic Republic is in peril. Our people cannot handle more economic pressure or another war. Adding to these strains are mounting concerns in Tehran over potential renewed Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear sites if nuclear diplomacy with the West fails.
On September 27th, the United Nations reimposed sweeping sanctions on Iran after last-ditch talks between Tehran and European powers. Britain, France and Germany failed to resolve the standoff over Iran's nuclear program. Britain, France and Germany had triggered the snapback mechanism on August 28th, accusing Iran of violating the 2015 nuclear pact. The measures designed to halt potential weapons development took effect on September 27th, following fruitless negotiating efforts during the UN General Assembly. Adding to the pressure, concerns are mounting in Tehran over potential renewed Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear sites if diplomacy collapses. Former lawmaker Gholam Ali Jafarzadeh Amenabadi told Iranian media on Thursday.
I think the chances of war breaking out are significant, given Israel's aggressive posture and the strong support it currently receives from the United States.
These sanctions strike at the heart of Iran's economy, targeting oil exports, banking, and the financial lifelines that had survived earlier US measures. Such fears are sharpening debate inside Iran's leadership about whether to double down on nuclear activity or pursue further talks. Iranian authorities have said renewed sanctions will push them toward a tougher nuclear stance, but the threat of Israeli attacks has left them with scant room to maneuver.
Some decision-makers in Tehran believe maintaining the status quo, no war, no deal, and continued talks, is the best option without offering further concessions.
Compounding Tehran's challenges, Iran's clerical establishment is grappling with mounting popular anger over deepening economic woes.
The clerical leadership is increasingly concerned that mounting public anger over economic hardships could erupt into mass protests that would further harm its position on the international stage.
Iran's official inflation rate is around 40%, and some estimate it is over 50%. Iranian media in recent months have reported a significant rise in food prices and costs of housing and utilities, driven by the rial currency's steep fall and soaring raw material costs. Iran has staved off economic collapse largely thanks to China, the main buyer of its oil, and one of the few nations still trading with Tehran despite sanctions reimposed since 2018, when then President Trump ditched Tehran's 2015 nuclear pact. Yet uncertainty looms over the sustainability of the exports with the revived UN sanctions.